Welcome to the show, I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And today we are discussing Starship Troopers. We'll laugh, we'll argue, we might get a little too into it, but at the end of the, with just a pregnant silence. At the end of the day, they're just movies.
Spoiler alert!
Oh,
This is like a military one.
that was the arachnid.
Oh yeah.
That was like a drill sergeant kind of thing.
We just go back to Galaxy
1997 came out. Deal with it. Go ahead, James.
Next week we're gonna do Primer. Have you guys seen Primer?
Never seen
Ooh, is that
Primer.
next week?
Get ready to watch it twice.
Okay.
I'm stoked. I loved that movie when I watched it like 12 years ago or something.
I'm hoping my older brain will can help me watch this movie. It's very thinky, everyone.
Oh, I don't like thinking.
Today is another movie though I sort of watched as a kid and now I'm like reevaluating.
This one's thinky if you want to, but if you don't want to, it's shooty.
There's stuff to say. Maybe David should let us know.
What are you giving it out of 10, David?
I'm just happy that it's been 2 weeks of 90s sci-fi movies. Guys, I like 90s sci-fi.
Welcome to the show.
Starship Troopers puts its most interesting Tarsus forward with well-balanced commentary and satire, but shoots itself in its own nerve center as it stumbles forward into a pretty shitty ending, leaving green goo aftertaste in my mouth. Tastes like victory, at least. 8 out of 10.
What in the...
Why'd
Why'd you say Tarsus?
That's the insect foot, man. It's like the insect shin.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Isn't that part of a human anatomy too?
Tarsal is your ankle.
Tarsal.
Get it right.
Metatarsal is
idiot.
the
Did you
VR
have your
version.
brain sucked out?
So dumb. I must have. The brain bug got to me. 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. I think this movie is
pretty
amazing.
Wow.
Until the ending just does literally nothing for me. Because then it's just the shooty with like mild echoes of its thinky. But when it is, it's thinky.
It wraps up the thinky, and it's like, well, here's just like whatever ending for the shooty.
Yeah, and I'm not into that at all. But the first like half of the movie, buddy, it's like a 9.5. I'd love it. Maybe not 9.
Riley.
Paul Verhoeven, which I didn't know this was a Paul Verhoeven movie until
Did you
I
see the
went to
Robocop
go.
cameo?
This is the
No?
Robocop's.
There's not.
This is the Robocop like squad. It's
so
the
funny.
same screenwriter as
Robocop
well.
just like steps in and saves a squad.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that later because there's so many cameos.
Okay, but yeah, I didn't know it was Paul Verhoeven, but he seems to be an expert at making misunderstood movies. Starship Troopers is simultaneously the dumbest action flick you've ever seen and a nuanced commentary on fascism, but can it be both?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe not. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. I gave Robocop a 6.5. I found this one to be less enjoyable.
Okay.
But it was very interesting. I'll say that it was a very interesting experience watching it and learning that it wasn't the super dumb action flick that I thought it was when I was a child.
Yeah.
Which most people did think
But
this.
Bombed.
But that's one of my main criticisms. If most people think it's a dumb action flick, you've failed as a filmmaker. But we'll get into that.
I
James?
also liked it a little less than Robocop, but I don't remember what I gave Robocop. So here we go, Riley. It's a 6, even if you didn't pick up on the satirical fascist satire stuff. But I'm doing my part by giving it a 7.
So it's a it's a dumb action flick, but if you pick up on some of the commentary, it could be a 7.
At least, like once you understand what the movie's doing.
I don't hate that. I guess I'm on board for that.
It's cool
mostly.
that it has like this dual, you know.
I'm not going to upgrade my score, but I respect what you.
But I think to me that the fact that it's hidden on its surface almost elevates it in the way that the people inside the universe are indoctrinated. That as an audience, we're indoctrinated
It's
to what
kind of
there is.
meta in that way.
Yeah, so I take it that way, and so I give the movie credit.
for sure.
7.5.
It has credit, but it also failed in some of its responsibilities.
Fair enough.
Let's talk all about it right after this message from our sponsor, Secret Lab. They sponsored us. They make chairs. They're designed to keep you comfortable for those long nights of work and play. Their Titan Evo 2022 series chair offers 4-way lumbar support, comes with a magnetic memory foam head pillow, and is offered in different upholsteries like hybrid leatherette, soft weave leather, and Napa leather, the official leather of Big K. Best of all, a 5-year extended warranty is included along with a 49-day return policy, so you're covered if anything goes wrong. Learn more at lmg.gg/secretlabtjm. That's how you get there.
That one was almost secret from you, even.
But I got there. I nuked the whole Thanks to Storyblocks for sponsoring today's show. Ever needed a quick clip for a video but didn't have the capacity to make it yourself?
Why?
Storyblocks helps you by bringing your stories to life without sacrifice due to budget or resource. So there are all that's getting worse.
No.
There are over 1 million royalty-free assets for you to choose from, including 4K HD footage, Adobe templates, music, images, and a wide array of diverse and inclusive content. There are subscriptions for every budget, so you can choose the plan that works for you. From their unlimited all-access plan that gives you unlimited video and audio downloads to enterprise licensing, so your entire company, all 80 people, have access to assets as they need them. We use Storyblocks here on Linus Tech Tips, as we don't always have time to go out and get the perfect shot for B-roll and such, and you can be good like us if you check out Storyblocks today at storyblocks.com/TJM. Understand? That's it, guys. Well, Riley, what happens in this godforsaken
Let me tell you, in the 23rd century, Earth is governed by the United Citizen Federation, a military dictatorship that only grants citizenship in exchange for federal service. Rich sports jock John the Jaw Rico, that's my
That's your
nickname for
alias?
him,
I like it.
rejects his parents' wishes and enlists as a mobile infantryman to remain close to his girlfriend Carbon Ibanez.
Carbon.
Her name's Carmen.
Carbon.
Ibanez.
She's
like
the
a
biggest
guitar.
life form, who wants to be a space pilot. Their classmate, Isabel Dizzy Flores, is in love with Rico and deliberately joins his squad. And a good thing too, because Carmen eventually breaks up with Rico to date fellow pilot Xander. This is just 90210.
Yep. And
In
Buffy.
space.
During training, Rico makes squad leader, but after his mistake causes the death of a squad member, he resigns, only to rejoin after the alien arachnids destroy his hometown Buenos Aires with an asteroid killing his parents. The worst way to go. The kids are sent to the bug's home planet, Klendathu, but the invasion is a disaster and most of Rico's platoon is wiped out. Rico is saved by his former high school teacher, Lieutenant Rajak, and joins his unit, the Roughnecks, along with Dizzy. Rico is promoted to corporal and finally gives in to Dizzy's advances, but during the next mission on Planet P, Dizzy is killed, and Rico is forced to euthanize the mutilated Rajak before being rescued by Carmen and Mr. Steelio girl Xander. Rico is once again promoted to lieutenant and granted command of the Roughnecks, who return to P to capture the Arachnid's leader, the Brain Bug. During the battle, Carmen and Xander's ship is destroyed, but they survive and crash land in the bug's underground tunnels, where the Brain Bug sucks out Xander's brain.
Ugh. So good though.
Rico's
really good.
squad manages to rescue Carmen just in time, and the Brain Bug is captured. A propaganda broadcast shows the Brain Bug being invasively studied, and Carmen captaining her own ship, and I screwed this up, and Rico enthusiastically leading his troops into another battle. What? Come on, apes! You want to live forever? And they won't. The end.
Wow.
Man, the arachnids look good
They
still.
look really good.
The effects hold up.
yeah.
How?
I don't know. Well,
There's
so
a lot of CG.
I guess the guy.
It looks better in the
wrong.
nighttime scenes. I think they did a good job using lighting in their favor, where it's like they're kind of obscured. In the 90s, that kind of texture was okay. Like, computers could do that well. They can't do skin. They can't do like compositing super well, but
Yeah.
like robot metallic and like
Carapace.
Carapace, they can do pretty good.
I-
But it looks
We
great.
mastered Carapace in 97.
Yeah.
And it works when there's a ton of them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about this, but I think that they got one of the guys who was instrumental in making like the Jurassic Park effects look really good in 1993, and they got him on to do these.
Yep.
And
A lot of it's funny. It makes a lot of sense. The lighting in the big invasion scene is pretty similar to kind of the T-Rex scene. Like, there's a little less fog,
Yeah.
but it's kind of the same idea.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
great.
back then they were also working in their favor was sort of like the lower resolution things going on there. So you like don't nowadays if you have like okay CGI, but like it's a little off, you can tell because we're at 4K, and all this stuff. But back then it's just like
And I think there's a really
Big
smart
smudge.
use.
it helps.
Just a
yeah.
big smudge.
Yeah, really smart
Lots of motion
use
blur.
of practical effects too, where like there'll be a person, and then one will get picked up, or like they'll get impaled and kind of dragged around for a bit, and it'll intercut. My brain likey.
They did some good ones. I like the one with that guy. They must have had him on a what do they call those things? Like a hoist, like on a wire.
yeah.
Because he's like falling towards the screen, like getting impaled from behind, and then he gets ripped away from the lens. Like that. Nice one.
Yeah.
They had a lot of iterations of people getting
Yeah,
impaled in this movie.
chomped, impaled.
Ripped in half.
Yeah.
Lots of blood.
I love it. Which
Which is
violent-
necessary for a nuanced critique of fashion.
Well, also, what about that time where the dude puts his hand up against the wall and then gets a knife in the hand, and then he pulls the knife out, and then he closes his hand?
I guess
that's
it's
not how that works.
I guess it's implied that
No,
like,
but that's sweet as a prosthetic, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
It was a moving prop.
Oh, he pulls the knife out and then the guy immediately takes it's the same shot?
Yeah, he clenches his fist.
Oh.
It's all one shot.
Well, you
dope.
can see in the wide shot where it's stationary, you can see there's like an appliance over his hand where like the cut blade goes. So his hand looks really big and swollen because there's like a prosthetic. I didn't notice the hand closing, but I'm guessing it's just like it was a fake knife that kind of came out. I don't know.
Or maybe
though.
it's
I'd have to
like
look closer.
maybe the whole thing is a prosthetic and there's just little servos that close the hand, like it's
pretty
robotic.
Maybe they actually stabbed Gary or Jake Busey's
people
hands.
were very committed. Is that a Busey?
Yeah, that's
Of
Jake
course he is.
Busey,
It's
Gary
a-
Busey's son.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I found that out after, and I was like, oh, that makes sense.
I just thought like, oh, it's Biff, Back to the Future bully.
Is it? No.
No?
That's a different
No.
guy.
Oh,
That's a different
well, I
guy.
haven't seen that stuff since I was like 4, I guess. But
Yeah.
I really thought that
Yeah,
was
this guy has the voice of T.J. Miller. I was like, every time he
Jake
spoke,
Busey?
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
Who's TJ Miller?
TJ Miller, really?
Don't leave me hanging
I
here.
feel like TJ Miller is like, he's the raspy guy from Silicon Valley. I can't really do it. I've never tried to do an impression of him before, but he sounds like this.
Oh, he's the guy that went crazy, like
Yeah.
Ulrich dude.
Did he?
That's all right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But,
Anyways.
anyways,
What do we talk about first here? The fascism, the action, the shower scene.
yeah.
Here's
sure.
James.
That's where we
One
talk-
of the first
That's the first thing?
One of the first cinema
Boobies.
experiences I can remember.
Oh, wow.
I went with my auntie, my cool auntie with the back tattoo. She had like a bead curtain doorway
sick.
and was dating a guy named Rob. Like my belly button ring auntie with red hair.
Yeah.
It was
Very
like,
cool.
let's go to the movies. I was like, hell yeah. I
We
saw
all
the
know the
trailers
one.
for Starship Troopers. Lo and behold, I'm sitting there. I'm less than 8 years old.
Whoa!
I knew it.
I'm less than 8 years
I
old.
knew you watched. I was like, James was probably like 6 when he watched this movie. 7, 1 year off.
And then boom, titties.
yeah,
That was nuts.
this is a formative experience for you.
And like, my auntie was like the cool auntie, but she's a Christian. Okay, I feel like she was
And she let you watch this?
just trapped. Well, she didn't pull me out of the theater. We didn't leave. We just kept going. In for a penny, in for a pound.
She's just kind of like, okay. Wait, what? You're 7
She's
years
sex
old?
positive. Hey, it's
what
just
was
boobs.
What was this movie rated?
This is R for sure. It's gotta
She takes a
be.
7-year-old to see an R-rated movie?
I don't know. She was with me. I survived.
That is not approved by the church.
So this is similar to Robocop in that it seems like I don't know how to pronounce his Dutch name. Verhoeven.
Yeah.
In Robocop, he just thought like humans of the future are beyond. They're beyond this. They can
Yeah.
have a plutonic shower thing. Same as Robocop. He just put this in both movies.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because it's a fascistic or military dictatorship like future society, in which case you wouldn't expect them to have dissolved gender boundaries
But
like
that's
that.
why it's actually so intentional. That's the same reason
Well,
why.
it's super intentional because he's horny and he wants to have an excuse to have boobs.
No, it's intentional. It's the same reason that he has a black guy lashing the white main character, Kinte Kunte style. It's because
Right.
they're trying to show that the fascism can exist. It's completely decoupled or orthogonal to like racism and sexism. They're not like necessary components of a fascist society.
I see.
They can be you can be fascist and be progressive in these other ways. That's what they're trying to demonstrate.
Well,
with that.
yeah, that's the Empire in Star Wars. You know, they're not racist
Okay.
against black
We're
people.
not going to talk about Star Wars.
No, I mean it's basically the same thing.
Did you guys know that the cast wasn't going to do the shower scene unless both Paul Verhoeven and the cinematographer were naked too?
No
Nice.
way.
Yeah, and they were like,
Nice.
okay.
They're on set nude?
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Good.
That is so sweet.
Good. He's like, but horny Paul is like, sure, I don't care.
He's just like, yeah, but he couldn't just have a boner. They'd
Maybe
know.
you did. I think you wouldn't. That would be kind of weird.
Why are you calling him that? You don't know.
He's This guy is Gene Roddenberry if he was more horny and simple-minded.
How dare you?
This is the anti. This
He's
is
European.
This is Star Trek. If the guy made it not to explore philosophical ideas, but because he wanted co-ed shower scenes.
Rod and Barry.
Rod and berries.
Paul Verhoeven is such a complicated character that I've discovered this after watching Robocop and now this movie. I was like, oh, okay. Like I just didn't understand, and I didn't know going in that this was Paul Verhoeven. So I was like, even when you said last week, I didn't know that we were doing Starship Troopers until on the episode you were like, next week we're doing Starship Troopers. I'm like, oh, what? Because like I remembered it as just the dumb action movie. And then as I am pressing play on it, I'm looking it up. I'm like, oh, this is Paul Verhoeven. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe there's something deeper. And then I'm watching it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is like RoboCop.
It's adapted from a novel.
It's like a ham-fisted attempt to make an action movie with philosophical things under it, but ultimately it fails.
I disagree. I don't think
going
that it
hard.
failed. I don't think it fails.
You gave it a 6.
Yeah, I think
Did you
I
enjoy
know.
it?
Well, because I enjoyed the stupid action stuff.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. Because that's the stuff that I think kind of is boring.
Well,
I like its attempt, and I think it's really interesting. I haven't read the book, but the book is a pro-war book. And so, like, coming from that angle and trying to remix it in a way where it's, like, very clearly, like, anti-militarism.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, I think the social commentary is interesting in it.
It definitely is interesting, and I think we
should
can
break
talk
it
about
down.
that. But should we say more about about the good parts? I guess you guys think those are the good parts.
It's kind of all intertwined,
And I agree.
entangled. So I think we should just break down
Let's get right into it.
the subtext of the movie. So, and it's weird because there's what the book was trying to get across, and then there's Verhoeven's like interpretation of the book. And I don't even know if he fully read it or he had someone
Apparently
read
he
it to him.
refused to finish it. He was like, nah, I don't
so
like this.
I think the guy who did the screenplay read it.
And
Okay.
that's the same writer as the RoboCop writer.
Right. Newmeyer or something.
Yeah, you can
Randy
forget.
Newman.
Anyways,
pull it up.
but yeah, he read like 3 chapters and then he's like, I'm not, and then he just got the other guy to summarize it for him.
The book is basically about what would a society look like that was forced, because of the foe it was up against, it was forced into a protracted period of fascism, because that was the only way that you could rise to the occasion to fight this foe. So the only reason they're against these aliens is it's just a device, it's a vehicle where it's like, okay, we need the whole planet to be all hands on deck. Like our whole culture and society is organized around fighting these aliens.
Right.
So that's why you hear the teacher explain at the beginning that the veterans inherited government. The government, it's a military government.
Yeah.
And the citizenship and like everything desirable in society, including a license to breed, is granted through joining the army.
Yeah.
There's all incentives possible in joining the military and adding to the fight.
It's definitely like an interesting setup, and I feel like I really appreciated them having that whole like classroom scene in the beginning and kind of like laying out this lore about how they came to be and how their society works and stuff.
Well, and one of the things I like is that clearly the inspiration of the home life is like the American dream and, you know, like the football star and all that stuff. But then it's in the backdrop of like, they're literally Nazis, like they're wearing Nazi uniforms.
Yeah, like Gabardine on Neil Patrick Harris really gives it away.
Oh,
Hey?
yeah.
Yeah.
When a lot of them, like the eagle logo and stuff. And even the fact that they're like,
Gray.
they're Aryans that exist in South America. It's like,
this
Well,
is
there's a
interesting.
lot
Funny.
of Germans who live in Argentina,
I'm
by
saying,
the
though,
way.
because
Yeah, they all have Hispanic names.
Yeah.
Rico, Ibanez, Flores.
Even Johnny's actually was supposed to be Juan.
But they're all like white. Yeah, I was confused because when I wrote down in my notes, I was calling him Juan, and then I saw that people were calling him Johnny in the movie, and I was like, wait, what? I thought his name was Juan.
I think in the book it was Juan, and he was Filipino.
Okay.
They switched it up.
Yeah, at the end he reveals that he's Filipino, which is funny.
Wait,
because,
they did that in the movie?
No, in the book.
Oh, okay.
In the which is funny because the book is like, as you say, the writer Heinlein, I forget his first name. He is sort of like more conservative, and he like is talking about how these more like authoritarian things can help. I think he was also critiquing fascism and saying like, let's not go full fascism, but he was like pro-war, as you say. But at the same time, he had this like sort of woke message at the end of the book where you follow this character the whole time. You think he's white basically, and then at the end you're like, he's like, oh, and he's Filipino.
why has he got to make it political, man?
That was political. Nothing else was.
The choice to put these like you thought they were from Orange County, and then it's revealed they're in Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
It's
That
like,
was so strange.
so what is that saying?
So I guess-
I think that's a Verhoeven thing, not a Heinlein thing.
I guess I don't know whether it's either of those guys, but I'm thinking the movie was like, okay, in the 23rd century, the American way of life and English and all this
So
stuff has
globalized.
basically become the Earth culture.
See,
So everyone is like American.
The
now.
headcanon,
I think so.
The headcanon I was coming up with was that the Nazis won, and that like we're actually seeing like Nazi culture around the world.
Okay, I think
but they
it's meant to be like a completely separate timeline.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean they mentioned Hiroshima, so I
That's
think
true.
that World War II probably played out as it was. But I mean, it's the 2400s, so it's like who knows when it actually happened. But the great part in the beginning there is when Michael Ironside's character Rajak, the teacher, is like, This year we studied the failure of democracy and how social scientists brought society to the brink of chaos. I was just like, that's such a, like a wonderful, and he says that like that's one of the earliest things in the movie. And I actually had to rewind a couple of times in that scene because it keeps going back and forth between him laying on this like thick, I don't know if you'd call that exposition, but it's like lore for the movie, and between that and between Rico like drawing this picture and sending it to the girl or to Carmen or whatever. Yep. And I'm like, okay,
I actually didn't even hear
my
it.
brain is trying to process this like intense information dump that's happening, and at the same time we're being introduced to these characters for the first time and learning about the relationship. And I had to stop it because I wanted to write down what was going on.
Yeah. Luckily I read the screenplay, so I was all...
Oh, you knew all about it.
Yeah,
I didn't know anything about the government system or anything.
There's a couple weird things that are different, like so both of them, they open up with like the newscast from the alien planet, and then it just kind of, everything goes to shit, and then they kind of fade to the schoolroom, classroom, right? But in the movie it says 1 year earlier.
Yeah.
But in the screenplay it doesn't. It just like goes, crossfade to the tablet. Even though it is still the same characters, it's still Johnny who's in this future newscast clip.
Is that just like an error?
I don't know if I thought it was. I don't know. Maybe it's just like a.
I feel like that's something that like they didn't have that, and then test audiences were confused, and so they had to put it in to make it explicit.
Yeah,
I'd guess it's something like that, or like an executive was like, "Well, what?"
It also seemed like in the movie, Carmen and Johnny are way more of a couple. Like they make out as soon as the bell rings and they go outside.
Yeah.
But in the screenplay, they get outside and he tries to kiss her and she like dodges it. And so the whole thing where, his buddy is like, "Why don't you go for Dizzy?" And he's like, "Yeah, but I want Carmen." He says, "I want Carmen." He says it in both cases. He says it in the movie too.
Man, the love square in this movie is so annoying to me.
I still don't know why it's in the movie. Like, why is it such a big part of the movie?
This is my question.
The only thing it accomplishes for me is it endears me to Dizzy a lot.
Dizzy rules.
Dizzy, exactly. I think by the end of the movie, I'm like, I really like her, and then she's taken away from me.
This is so interesting. I heard that people liked Dizzy, and I was like, why?
I love Dizzy.
She's so annoying.
What?
You're annoying.
She's so competent and authentic.
Yeah, but she uses that only in pursuit of this idiot who turns out to be an idiot. Then she gets him at the end. It's like, nice, and then she just dies. Why am I like what? Why
She's
would
the
I
underdog.
cheer? Why would I cheer for her when she's kind of an ass to Carmen in the beginning.
In love.
She's an ass to Carmen in the beginning, and she's trying to steal him from his
You
girlfriend.
like brunettes.
What? No, I didn't. I hated Carmen too. I hate women is the problem.
Let's clarify, he doesn't.
Just kidding.
We're being facetious, guys. You know how woke Riley is?
I just didn't get it. I don't know why I should cheer for any one of them. They all seem like idiots.
No. Carmen got 95%.
Wow, good job. And then she dumps him as soon as okay, fair enough. She wasn't into him, I guess, and it's like implied that she's just kind of flirty. And so
No, she did it she said it's because she decided they were never going to be near each other ever again. She was going to be a career pilot. So
you think that's the only reason?
Like, let's just end it now. That's what she said.
I think that she's fickle. I think that she's...
They're 18.
Yeah, it's a good
exactly, but that's fine.
But you make stupid decisions when you're 18 about love. Riley's never been in love.
By the way, we're going to do a love...
I've only been married for 9 years.
We're going to do an episode sometime soon where you guys give us you mail in for relationship advice, and we're going to...
Okay, look, tell me why you were rooting for Dizzy. Because she's competent?
I think she's charming. She's likable. She's the one
Charming
person...
and likable.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I won't interrupt. Sorry.
I think there's, like you said, it's like there's an underdog charm to her. She's like rough and tough. She's kind of like, I don't know. There's something about her character that I find appealing.
She's just always there.
What is the something? That's my question.
She's always there. She's in love with him. She's setting him up. She like helps him out. She helps him become squad leader.
You guys like him because you're putting yourself in the position of Rico as the audience surrogate, and you're pleased that someone is showing interest in you.
Dizzy could be the main character.
Yeah, I'd honestly enjoy the movie more.
Her entire quest is just to at first steal this guy from his girlfriend by ridiculing Carmen, and B, to to just end up with him, and that's the whole. She changes platoon. She like goes out of her way to switch squads to be closer.
That's not
to him.
her only thing. She also wants to be squad leader.
And what is so great about Rico that she sees? Why does she like Rico?
He's a hunk and he's rich.
He's a rich hunk.
Hell,
That's
what else do you
anymore.
need, buddy?
Yeah.
That's not a respectable reason for being into somebody. Like if someone was
When
into
you're
Rico,
18?
They're on the same team.
If someone saying that they're 18 is no excuse to not write interesting characters.
This is a stupid thing to dwell on.
It's true. We shouldn't stay on here for too long. But
I can agree
didn't
that
get
the characters in this movie are very paper thin, but I think that's kind of the point. They're supposed to be these
Right.
archetypes turned up to a million, and you're like, you recognize him as like, the all-American like football star, and then there's like the pretty smart girl going off.
Right.
Like you recognize what they're going for in like a usual high school movie. And then it's fun that they transition it into a military film, but they kind of carried over.
Were you
It's like football, but with more flips.
Yeah.
Were you
Football.
invested in Johnny's journey?
Zero. I wanted him. I forgot that he didn't die, and I was like, sick. He's dead.
So
Yeah.
what character?
That'd be such a cool turn if he was dead.
So you're saying the only character you were invested in was Dizzy?
And the teeth guy.
She was.
The Ace?
Oh yeah, what's that guy? Is he Titus? Who is that guy?
What do you mean Titus? What?
You remember Titus?
No,
He's like a comedian.
No,
he had
that
his own
was
show for
wasn't
a bit.
that Michael Rappaport or something? No, I was confused. No. All right. Well, he kind of this face took the place in my mind. Listen. This is what.
This is Titus. Remember this guy? Sorry, I was not.
Oh wow.
Looking at my screen
Dang.
right now. No, this doesn't him either.
This is kind of like my the big problem I have with the movie is that if it wanted to ride this sort of like weird middle line between seeming like a dumb action flick to the unwashed masses, but being recognized by the elite film people as having more depth, if it wanted to do that, it would be so much better of a movie if it actually had some well-written characters with actual motivations that we care about.
Oh, hold on, guys. Ace is Jake Busey.
Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
He's teeth guy.
Yeah, he's not Biff.
That's what we said.
I know. You're right.
Talking
but,
about
like,
dwelling on things.
Yeah.
But who's... Okay,
Well,
okay.
I
you,
agree-
you guys continue the thread. You're on.
I
I'm gonna
agree
figure
with
this
you
out.
100% that this movie doesn't bring it home. And I think that's a big failure of its thematic explorations. It goes interesting places. Like, I think the best part of the whole movie is that newscast with the ads.
Yeah.
Buddy, that's like 10 out of 10.
But they're not as good as the Robocop ads.
They're not as good as the Robocop ads. But it's when it kind of just stops even trying to push a message. It's just... I don't know. It just goes on for another 40 minutes, and you're like, "Wait, that's it?"
So that's exactly. Okay, here I'm going to come into my core point here that I wanted to make about this movie.
Please do.
This movie.
Okay, Biff is Tom Wilson. He's not in Starship Troopers.
Thank goodness. We all knew that already, but James just caught up.
Now, who is the guy who looks like Biff?
Stop. Let's talk about the movie. This movie and the public reception to it is a better illustration of the point I was trying to make about the Godfather movies.
Clancy Brown.
God damn,
Sergeant Zim. That's who it is.
son of a bitch.
Go for it.
How are we going back to Godfather?
He's in Shawshank.
It's the same thing.
Oh, Clancy Brown. Oh, I see. What you're
This movie belongs to the same category of misunderstood cinema to
Okay,
me as
yeah.
the
I
Godfather
see what you're
movies.
saying.
They have a tone and nuanced ideas that are usually pretty clear, as I said, to like well-educated, filmy people, but are interpreted by the masses as glorifying the very thing that the movie is trying to critique, which is fascism.
Well, that's but David's point earlier, that's the interesting thing about it. It's like when you see fascism presented this way, when you're on the inside looking out, not the outside looking in, there's all these things that attract you to it, and you go, "Oh, hoorah, this is fucking cool."
Right.
Like in the same way, I left the movie craving to know what the bug society was like and how the structures was. But those characters in the movie would never get to know that, because then they wouldn't be as easy to control them and make them hate bugs.
Right.
Yeah, like when they have those little kids stomping on cockroaches.
Yeah.
There's like they picked a villain that is as dehumanized as possible.
Yeah.
You couldn't give a crap about these bugs.
You know what this story is? It's basically like a worse version of Ender's Game. Because Ender's Game is literally humanity versus an insectoid species that's attacking them. And then at the end of Ender's Game, I don't want to spoil it, but it makes things more interesting than just bugs kill them all.
Harrison Ford was fantastic in that movie.
I'm not talking about the movie. I don't know if I even finished the movie. I think I watched like half of it, but I read the book
Biff's in that
a long
one.
time ago, and I loved the book as a kid.
Biff
But
plays Harrison Ford.
I never watched that. Well, I never read that one in high school. I never had to, so I didn't. But
So
That's what it's about, huh?
My issue with this type of movie is that filmy people on podcasts can watch it and be like, oh, it's so obvious what this is about. How could anyone not get it?
After Googling.
Right. But then everyone else either think the movie is... Average Joes watch the movie and they're like, okay, either that's just a dumb action flick, whatever, which is what I thought of this when I was younger. Or B, they actually like the movie because the movie makes the bad thing look cool. It makes the cool action and all the army stuff and join the army and kill them all. I don't think it's like patriotism. People go and watch this movie and some of them were like on board with the stupid action stuff, and other people were like, oh, it's just a dumb action thing.
It doesn't have the same effect as The Godfather though, where it's like, cool, I need a Scarface poster in my room now, and I
think it's tons of people had Starship Trooper posters.
Yeah, sure, but
because they thought it was like a cool action movie.
But it's not gonna this movie isn't gonna inform your like sense of masculinity and stuff like those other movies. Those
no, of course not.
Would.
It's not the exact same. But I'm saying that the overall issue of this movie intending to provide a nuanced discussion of something being misinterpreted as just, oh, badass cool stuff happening. Oh, he's badass mafia guy. I want to be like that. I want to be like a cool patriotic like soldier.
See, but I think Godfather brings it home. Like the arc of Michael Corleone is like clearly a tragedy. No one at the end of Godfather 2 is like, dude's so cool.
Right, whereas in this movie, the arc is basically he just like gets promoted a bunch.
Yeah, exactly. And he's still a badass. And at the end, he gives a speech to his soldiers, and he gives like the cool Michael Ironside speech and stuff. And
so, I mean, that's his arc basically, is going from being able to recite the textbook to his teacher, and the teacher being like, "But do you believe it?" No. To him becoming his teacher, right?
Right.
He has his own version. He replaces them in rank and role.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and he just becomes like a implement of the fascists.
Mm-hmm. But do you feel like at the end of this movie it feels like a tragedy? Because I don't feel like that at the end. I don't feel like the movie's
exactly
like a tragedy.
The subtext is presented as a tragedy.
Exactly.
Like when they have the brain thing and they're like, he's afraid. Yeah,
everyone's cheering for the wrong reason.
That is a tragic. But that's all subtext.
Yeah.
The actual on the nose presentation of the movie is like, and they keep fighting.
Most people go and watch a movie and they don't get the subtext.
See, but do you think
that's fine, Riley.
Yeah, is
no,
it your responsibility as some level of moral authority to judge a movie based on how other people interpret it?
Yes.
I don't think so. I don't think that you have a responsibility. I think you need to view the lens, use your filter, and interpret it through you. You don't have to be like, well, dumb people are going to think that it's this.
Okay, here's my argument. You can make art intended for a niche audience, right? You can make art and be like, not everyone's going to get this, but some people are going to get it, and this art is for them. And so it's like, that's fine. But when you know your art will be disseminated to the masses, and everyone in the world is going to see it because it's a big blockbuster action movie coming out of Hollywood, you have a responsibility to make sure that it's not so misinterpreted that the entire legacy of the movie is... Everyone hated it at first because they didn't get it, and then 20 years later, now we understand, oh, this was a critique on fascism. That's stupid. Why would you intentionally do this? And I don't think he intentionally did it. I think he was just irresponsible.
I don't think it was irresponsible. I think he just had higher expectation of audiences.
He's European, remember, everyone.
Yeah, and so he's better than us.
Right, but that's you have to understand how people are going to take it. Like, I do blame him for not understanding that the masses aren't going to pick up on all this subtext.
See, but I think it's a similar problem to Galaxy Quest in the sense that it was ahead of its time, where it was too close to media of that time. Like the things it's making fun of are self-serious in other movies. So people are like, oh yeah, this looks exactly like it would in some shitty military movie coming out now. But it took a little separation for us to understand he's making fun of it while presenting it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's like forward-looking and like avant-garde and like interesting that it takes longer to get ahead.
To you, a well-educated filmy person.
Okay.
To the masses.
Yeah, but I'm reviewing the movie for me. I'm not being like, hey, I'm responsible for like the dumb people.
Yeah. No, fair. Okay.
He tried his best. Like, for example, at the end of the movie, when they continue to do experiments on the brain thing, and you see these scientists with these gargantuan instruments, these giant like multi-axial drills that are shiny and pokey. It's so stabby, and they're just like stabbing into its face, like, haha, doing science. It's so like slapstick almost.
Yes.
Like the guy's trying. He's not a subtle director.
No, I'm not saying that he's not trying. I'm saying that he was irresponsible and incompetent. But wait, I just want to say,
Christ.
I want to say at the, so I'm gave it a 6. It was still sort of an enjoyable experience for me, but I want to like clarify here that I'm not like upset with him. I'm not like, I don't think that this movie is like morally bad that it exists in the world. I just like, I see it and I see lost potential because I see what he was trying to do, because he said over and over and over and over what he was trying to do. He was trying to critique fascism. And instead, what he made was not even really a critique of fascism. It was just like a satire, a lampoon of, he was lampooning the idea of a military dictatorship, but the lampoon and the satire was incompetently accomplished so that people don't even understand that it's a satire. And in
like
some
you're
ways,
living in this weird timeline where Starship Troopers was a huge hit, and there's all these frat bros that were like, "Dude, this movie's so sick," and like, nobody likes it, and it's like the only people talking about it anymore are people that understand that it's a satire.
But I'm saying nobody liked it because they didn't get it.
That's fine. That's
It's
fine.
not- it's not fine. It's-
What's wrong?
I mean-
Why does a movie have to be well liked for you to like it? What's wrong with it being misunderstood? And then as we slowly pull apart, as our society's discussion changes, that we unveil like what its true purpose was. What's wrong with that?
No, that's a fair point, and I think I kind of wanted to bring this up, that like I want to reiterate or make clear that I again, I'm not saying the movie sucks, and I'm saying that I enjoyed it. I gave it a 6. It's hard to like disentangle these things, but I'm saying that the reason I didn't enjoy it more is because I'm aware of the legacy of it, and I'm aware of how it was perceived. And as I'm watching, I'm just like, I'm seeing all the missteps, and I'm like, you could have made this movie such that other people also get it, but you were obsessed with like making it super nuanced and like having it be like an in-joke with you and the smart people, so that it ends up not even really being that smart, because look at its legacy.
I honestly, I don't really agree, because
wait.
You have to think about like
the thing I forgot. I needed to put it there as well. Is that when I watch a movie, I am also concerned with the like cultural impact of it. I'm not like, there are some movies, and we talk about it here. I'm watching the movie and I'm just like, I know a lot of people don't like this movie, but I really enjoyed it, so I'm giving it a 9. But for this one, I feel like there's a trend with Robocop and with this one, and I haven't seen other Verhoeven movies. And it's just like irritating to me that that's a trend, that like they're misunderstood.
There are things where if it's really top of mind for you, this is the lens through, it's very easy for you to see things through that lens. For example, in American society today, you could watch any kind of, like it would be very common for someone to go, oh, this is about gender, this is about race, because that's like what the popular discourse is all about, right? This director lived through fascism. Yeah. He lived in occupied nations. So for him, this stuff is so obvious. If for a North American audience who didn't live through that stuff, especially when we're watching this 20 years on, we're like, you might have to Google it after and be like, oh, it was about fascism, where he's like, duh, fucking duh.
Yeah.
It's like so on the nose to him.
Right. So, and that's what I said, is like, filmy people watch it and they're like, oh, it's so obvious. But I think, I watched it as an adult, and before I even knew.
I'm not saying, I'm just fighting it back against your claim that it's like irresponsible or something. But it's hard to look outside of yourself. For him, he thought it was very obvious, and for this other society watching this movie, it's not so obvious.
Okay,
so
but your argument there is not that he was irresponsible, but that he was uninformed about what the masses are like.
But isn't it like,
depends on the audience, like where they live and when they live.
I mean, it released globally. Like, I don't think that people in Europe were like, oh, actually, we know that it's super smart. I think it just did bad everywhere.
But I think the dynamic that you're not like taking into account is that like when you're part of a fascist society, you're not always aware of it. And so the fact that you could watch this movie and be like, yeah, this is like whatever, it's like military culture, that's cool. But then like you later, as you're like more educated or you discuss this movie, you realize like, oh, wow, this is fascism. I live in fascism. I think that's a way more interesting angle than you watch it and you're like, it's like a Star Trek episode and you're like, wow, it's a totally different culture and they're talking about fascism. It's like, I'm experiencing what I'm watching. Then all of a sudden, I'm unveiling that fascism in my own life.
Yeah, I like that. What? He's basically saying that for the people who like it, you're watching it and you're like, yeah, the only good bug is a dead bug. And then you're like, wait a second, why do I like this?
Yeah.
It makes you kind of point the mirror at yourself. Anyways,
I think that's what he wanted people to do, but they didn't do it.
This conversation,
they have done it, though.
This conversation no longer interests me.
That's
so let's
fair.
move on. I like the tone of his movies, similar to Robocop. They're just, I don't know what it is. Like they've got this, the the gore to it, like when their spaceship bumps into like a cadaver in space, like a human just bumps off their windshield. Like never gonna see that in Star Wars. That's awesome. This movie has everything.
Yeah.
Boobies.
It's got the
blood. Bombs.
Got all the good
but,
stuff.
I mean, it has like all the
Bs.
space travel. Like they hit the warp drive,
Yeah.
and then you go from that to like terrestrial combat.
Yeah.
I think
I will say
football,
the space
lashings.
The space combat sucks in this though. I was not impressed.
Well, the ships are all big boats.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. It's like not supposed to be super fun. But yeah, it does have a little bit of everything for everyone.
I guess because I knew it was a parody, I wasn't like, oh yeah, cool. I think I was just like seeing it as an SNL skit. Like once it is like very apparent to you that this is like not a serious movie, it's satire. Then from then on, I'm never like titillated. Like I think every time that they are like unloading on bugs and you see the bugs like kind of like disintegrating and stuff, like that's kind of titillating in a way.
Oh, it made me mad though.
Why?
Because Neil Patrick, that character, early on, gives that infomercial that's like, aim for the nerve
center.
thorax
That was pretty
or whatever.
good.
And then
It's
the whole movie,
nobody
they're
ever
just going like just at nothing. And
It
like,
was so the tactics in this movie were so frustrating.
So
to me.
well, yeah, they're just running around.
I'm not even sure guns are what you want to use.
Well, that's what I was thinking. You could design a much better weapon.
Lasers.
Yeah.
I'm always-
Yeah, they have the training lasers.
Apparently,
I mean, that's all the same, I guess.
later in the franchise, they made like 2 direct to DVD sequels,
gotta watch
and they have laser guns later. Like they develop them.
I wonder about these sequels. Do you know anything about
I've
them?
never watched them.
I can
have
only
zero
imagine
desire.
that they're like, okay, the fascist subtext is gone, and now it's just the shooty parts.
I think basically that. I mean, I read the plot synopsis of the number 2.
Is that any of the same characters?
No, completely different characters. Although number 3 they bring Van Dien, the
Rico?
what's his name, the guy who played Rico,
None of the actors in this movie are particularly big.
Casper Van Dien.
I mean,
they bring him back.
Denise Richards.
Denise Richards,
Pretty
Dina
big.
Meyer got a bunch of work
Clancy
after
Brown.
this.
They're
Mr.
all
Krabs.
Neil Patrick Harris.
Everyone in this is
Someone.
in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Neil Patrick Harris is probably the most successful.
That's fair.
Ironside. I love when I see Michael
Yeah.
Ironside
Oh,
because he was
Ironside.
Sam Fisher's
I
voice.
know.
He's
I
a
love
legend.
So I'm always like Splinter Cell.
Also, Dean Norris from Breaking Bad,
Dude,
Yeah.
this is what I'm saying.
who
This
looks
is
like the same as he did in Breaking Bad.
Yep.
I have a whole section of cameos
Yo.
in this in my doc here. Like Amy Smart, remember her?
Oh,
Yeah,
Road Trip.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, there's a guy from Wayne's World who's in the background of this movie. He literally doesn't have a line. He's that like producer guy in Wayne's World who's like super happy. He works for the
Oh, yeah,
Benjamin.
yeah.
And he eventually is a turncoat and like joins Wayne's World's team.
Yep.
Yeah, he's just randomly in the background.
Man. But the tactics, I wanted to talk about that again
Oh,
because
boy.
they're walking through the canyon and one of them gets picked off by the flying bug.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you have spaceships. You can go land wherever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Why'd you land somewhere and then walk through a canyon to get to the base where that's your destination, where later a dropship just comes and picks you up anyways?
I think
Why didn't you
those-
just drop
they sort
there?
of explain it when Neil Patrick Harris comes out and he's got the dark circles under his eyes and he's full cynic and he's like sometimes you guys just have to die for us to get the information we need. And
Yeah, but
it's like,
they still could have just dropped them there.
No, but I mean that's the first time we've seen the flying bug, so maybe they need the information to like know what it's like to face them. So they need people to die.
Are you talking about Fort Joe Smith?
I don't know. They get attacked by the flying bugs at
in
the base.
canyon.
Like,
yeah.
Okay, that base, that little news report is saying that these Mormons went and colonized this spot and called it Fort Joe Smith, only to get colonized themselves
That was a
by these
funny-
hordes. And I was like,
that was a funny bit.
I still don't quite get it. Why were they Mormon specifically?
They were Mormon extremists. They were trying to evangelize, I think.
The bugs.
So what are they trying to get across in the subtext of the movie? So this is like a global,
I think it's
the
actually-
Federation, right?
I think it's a reference to something.
Maybe in the same way that we were talking earlier about making clear that there's no race discrimination or gender discrimination. Maybe they wanted to get across that it's an atheist society,
Oh, maybe.
and so they're kind of taking the piss out of religion here.
Sure.
Anyways, that guy from Wayne's World, his name's Kurt Fuller. That's the
fantastic.
cameo.
Fantastic.
And
But
also,
I agree
why do
that-
they keep sending down soldiers to like shoot them with bullets? Why don't they just fucking nuke the planet?
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Like, why would you just not? Yeah, just nuke everything. They do it eventually. Eventually they go, okay, we're gonna nuke them, and then the mobile infantry is gonna mop up. But that's after the big debacle at Kathmandu or whatever their planet's called.
I honestly forget. Kathmandu?
But because I guess what they're showing there is like they had this whole
Klendathu, just for the record.
Thank you. They have this whole propaganda apparatus, but they don't focus on the right things. They didn't actually research their enemy or know how they fought, or because even on approach they're getting hit by those plasma things that the intelligence was going to say they understood that was a weapon, but they thought they were just going to be shooting inaccurately and haphazardly.
Yeah.
There was actually a lot of them.
Yeah, but again, I feel like the explanation is that they don't know that much about the bugs, so they need to draw out the tactics. So they need to sacrifice thousands of people to like make the bugs play their cards so they can figure out like what's at the center of this.
So you just think all of those missteps earlier in the movie are explained by the Neil Patrick Harris?
To me, that's how I interpret it is. But
I mean, yeah, in hindsight, the reason why the tactics suck so much is because they don't care how many people die. They can always recruit more soldiers, which they are constantly doing. But what they really care about is maintaining this war, maintaining this external enemy, so that the fascist regime can continue. It's been hard for people to like have an absolute definition of what fascism is, because people use it in so many different ways now that it's like the word has almost lost meaning. Yeah. But one consistent thing that I think you can apply there is the need for an external enemy that you like dehumanize. And so that's the reason why everyone gathers together under the banner of the government, is because, well, we're in an emergency, we're in a wartime thing, you know, we have to give up our rights and our freedoms in this situation so that we can destroy this thing that's trying to kill us.
Yep.
The bugs are the Jews, is what I'm saying.
But they are trying to eliminate the bugs. Like they
are, but at the same time, they aren't like doing the most efficient thing that would.
Yeah, because they want the war to be ongoing. They don't want to finish the war.
Yeah,
which is interesting. But shout out to when they do finally start using nukes. That one when they like rocket launch the nuke into the cave and it comes out and it's like these cascading explosions. That's like a fucking tight explosion, man.
I wrote that down as like that is the most unrealistic explosion. But actually, now that I think about it, because it has, like you're saying, there's like these different, I don't know, like planes that are going like shooting dust in the air, and they're coming closer and closer to it. You can see how they rigged it.
Yeah,
but
it's sick.
I guess it could make sense if there's subterranean, like there's tunnels coming towards the screen underneath that I can't see, and it's blowing up under there.
Yeah. Don't think about it.
You got me on board. What's the deal with his parents being rich and outside of this whole?
Okay, so I had to think about this for a second, but it's because when you're rich, you have power, and you can just like get things that you want through exerting that power.
Right.
So you don't need to be a citizen in order to vote to try and make your voice heard. Your voice is already heard because you have money and power.
Yeah.
So they don't vote for stuff. They just go directly to the
representative,
senator or whatever.
So the carrot they dangle to him when he wants to leave is that let's go to the outer rim, to the beaches of Salanthia or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Some nice vacation place, and then later in the movie we find out that was destroyed. So is that a subtle kind of thing, like the military politic is like trying to take more power or niceties that these rich people would indulge themselves on? They take that away.
I don't think the government destroyed it.
No, the war effort destroyed it.
Which doesn't make any sense because the bugs are in another solar system.
But why is that in the movie? Is it just incidental, just to make the main character?
Because the movie makes no sense.
Make the main character sad? No, I don't agree with that. I think things like this are all intentional. They're all world building.
I don't think that there is a consistent in-universe reason for a location in the Sol or whatever, our solar system, to be destroyed.
Well, I mean,
because the bugs aren't there. Unless they're shooting asteroids at like everything. I thought
it's established that they have infinite asteroids from this belt.
Yeah, so they're just shooting them at like, I guess, fair enough. They could have sent an asteroid to Jupiter or wherever it is.
How the hell?
But why?
I wanted to know thematically why they chose, because like Rico's going to leave and then at the last minute his parents die and was in the asteroid. What like thematic or character reason do you think they give that's like important? Other than like he needs a reason to fight, like he needs to have his back against the wall and need to fight. Because to me, that's the first kind of thematic misstep where it's like kind of pro-war, where you're like, see, you do have to fight.
Yeah, I mean, like it's hard to argue with that motivation.
So
what?
What you're saying is,
parents.
it's outside of the like it's not propaganda. That
it's like
they
real.
actually
That's
got
a
leveled.
real reason.
It's a misstep.
Well, there's lots of shitty things in war. So that's
7.9.
I guess
feel
it's just, it plays into what the propaganda is all based on, like the kernel of truth,
Yeah.
which is the actual real results.
I mean,
Well, I was kind of hoping that his parents survived, and there's like a message about like class inequality where the wealthy were kind of protected and all the poor people in Buenos Aires were just dead or something.
Right.
But no.
Because like I guess optimally we would want Rico to in another movie Rico would realize that the system is wrong and would refuse to participate in some way or try to tear it down or try to do something to stop the injustice.
was there any character like that in this movie?
No, everyone is wholeheartedly on board.
Yeah.
Which is also why it's kind of hard to tell sometimes that it's satire, because there's no character that's standing in for the filmmaker being like, just so you know, guys, this isn't a pro-fascist movie, just so you know.
But don't like, I mean, like when you hear the person be like, I'm joining the military because I want permission to have a kid. You think like most people are like, that totally makes sense.
That's weird. Yeah.
I think most
but that's
people
part
are
of
just
it too,
like,
Riley, right? Like the fact that all the kids in your class were joining. So that's like why he wants to go, right?
why, who, what?
That's why Johnny wants to join up. Is it's like everyone's doing it. The girl, he
Well, yeah, he wants to stay
it.
with his girlfriend, yeah. But what's the...
Well, that's just how thorough the culture,
Yeah.
the propaganda has built up.
And I think that most people who watch this movie aren't going to critically question that because they're just kind of like, oh, this is this super far future thing where I guess that's what they have to do. Like when you played StarCraft, were you like,
I'm listening.
Hey, wait a second. Why is the prevailing, human government confederation or whatever? Or that's not that. There's a confederation and then there's also the other one. There's two human governments
I don't remember.
that are like doing a civil war. But you never ask like, hey, wait a second. Why is it a military dictatorship in StarCraft? You just accept it because you're there to blow up the Zerg,
like,
which is very much inspired by these
You
bugs,
don't think
it
that
seems like.
people see the Nazi uniforms and are like, yeah, there's something wrong about this.
I think that's as far as they get. I think they see the Nazi stuff and they're just kind of like, oh, that's weird.
How dare you try to rope us back into that conversation?
Yeah, we're back.
We're finished. The Godfather is its own episode.
Yeah, but we have to say that Neil Patrick Harris is like literally dressed as a Gestapo.
Yeah,
He's
it's
the
awesome.
biggest giveaway. That big gabardine.
Yeah, it's
That was hilarious.
I think it's interesting too how the movie portrays they're all friends and equal in high school, and then once they enter the real world, the military world, they're so clearly divided in how the war affects them. Like Rico's the cool kid in high school, but he's put in the lower class. He's put in the infantry, and then Denise Richards put in the middle class, like the pilot thing. But then he's in the upper class, and you can see how like the infantry has the worst situation. The pilots are like kind of dying because like some of the ships are going, but then the Gestapo level, they're just like totally immune to the actual effects of the war. They're just like, it's all theoretical and it's all that. And I think the movie doesn't go deep into it, but I think it is an interesting level of thought.
It's kind of eugenics too, right?
Totally.
It's all just
He's
what
the
score
smart
did you get
ones.
on the test?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and you're kind of psychic too?
Totally.
Boom, you're at the top.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Just meritocracy.
it makes a lot of sense.
What's the deal with that psychicness too?
I don't know.
It's kind of
What
random.
is the deal with that?
And they don't really use it. I mean, like later he's just kind of like, I think I should go this way. And then they imply that Carl like psychically told him to go down that tunnel.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Did he and Carl have an interaction
would
right
be
before
better
that
if it
where they
was
were
just
standing in front of each
intuition.
other?
It would have been better if it was like kind of intuition.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of weird that he was like, no, you know what? I'm following my gut here. If it was a better movie, he would have not done that just because Carl, the strategist. I mean, I guess you could read that as being like more satire. Be like, oh, the only good thing the soldier ever does is because he was being manipulated by the higher ups.
That's kind of funny. I like that reading.
I guess so. But it was like, even that is like unclear in the
I was
movie.
so disconnected from the movie at that point where I was like, okay, let's just fucking wrap it up.
Such a 90s movie. There's a ferret.
Yeah.
There's a random ferret
Oh, yeah.
appears.
I will
was
say
kind of a cool thing,
shout
though.
out to Xander getting his brain sucked out. That effect is
That was
awesome.
so like, I think I saw this movie like on TV when I was like 13 or something.
sure.
And that is the part that just sticks
It's disturbing.
out. It's disturbing, but it was also like strangely, mesmerizing.
It's so easy to move your head out of the way of stuff. Like
he
roll
was being pinned down by a claw.
in his leg.
Yeah, I don't know. You're not
Dude,
gonna,
you could pivot all
they're
the
gonna-
way around
they're
the
gonna-
clock.
They're gonna get you one way or the
Well,
other.
they should have stabbed his hands down, like crucified him. Like,
I don't know.
Somebody should have held his head in place.
I wasn't thinking about that. I was just like, he's mesmerized by this.
My jiu-jitsu brain was taking over. I was like, shrimp out of there, man.
You're just gonna die. What's the point? Who cares?
Also, do you think that knife was enough to cut through that the tendril?
It didn't even. It was just tang in hand. It didn't even have a handle, did it?
No, it was
Probably would
know.
have cut
It
her
looked
hand.
pretty fragile, the proboscis.
I guess so, and that's like protected. That's why it has to be protected.
Yeah.
I liked when it's walking out and you see the little like brain cockroaches around it. And I was like, I'm so interested. I'm like, I want to know how the society works and like the hierarchy and 100%.
stuff. They did a great job on that thing. It was gross.
Yeah,
it was gross looking, but you could also sympathize because it has those big eyes.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the movie does hint that there is a society there, right?
Well, that's what they're learning throughout, right? That they're smart.
Right.
And you remember that news clip where that lady is saying, like, there could be bugs we haven't even seen yet. And the other guy's like, it's offensive.
Frankly, I find the concept of bugs that think offensive.
Yeah, I love that.
And
As
he's
if that
so
should shut it
clearly
down.
wrong, but he's still on TV, right?
Yeah. That was painful.
I mean,
to watch.
everyone is wrong.
What's the deal? Like, how is this thing learning by sucking your brain out? Like, what part of your intelligence and knowledge is intact when your brain gets put through a blender?
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's because you're
It's
not
fine.
a bug.
It's a stupid. It's a stupid
dumb,
sci-fi movie. It's like, oh, he's sucking out his brain so he has his knowledge. Like that's not how it works. But okay.
It's gross that thing unfolds.
Are we in nitpicks and hitpicks?
What'd you say?
Nitpicks.
That's Riley.
There are a lot of signs that these kids should not be signing up for this. Multiple amputees.
Oh yeah.
The adults.
Love
They go to
that.
like hand in their forms. And like the guy has an arm prosthetic, but like the government didn't even give him leg prosthetics.
Yeah.
He's just sitting in the chair with no legs.
Or maybe he just wants
His job
them
is to
off.
get things signed.
Yeah,
He doesn't have to walk around.
I love that.
Yeah, I do appreciate that aspect of the satire where like, I mean, I appreciate the satire, a lot of aspects of it, but that one in particular was just so like obvious and the kids are just like, oh yeah, cool, can't wait to join the army as they're like walking past these like, you know, hobbled people like, ugh.
The man I am today.
Yeah, love that.
I like the warp drive effect. It was decent.
Yep.
It was a little different. It wasn't like just like Star Wars. It was kind
Yeah.
of opposite to Star Wars actually. Instead of the stars like coming toward the screen, it kind of all went in.
Oh yeah.
But I was like, nice. You guys did your own thing.
Cool.
That looks good.
Hit pick for that moment when the training accident happens. That's like 10 out of 10 shocking. I totally forgot that happens, but just his head gets blown up.
Yeah.
Great
As
effect.
soon as someone takes their helmet off, you know
Yeah.
it's over.
Oh, I love it.
As soon as they said this is a live fire exercise, I was like, really though? Because there's a bunch of people on the grounds. There's a lot of people around who could just be shot.
Yeah, that kind of is a nitpick for me where even in
Doesn't
the
make any
battle
sense.
scenes, they're all like firing their guns like a foot away from each other, kind of just like running around.
Yeah.
Like, there would be so many dead people from friendly fire.
It's one thing to have like a futuristic society where they have like medical technology that means that in training you can just break someone's arm and it's no problem. You know, you can stab someone's hand. It's another thing to be like, all right, live ammunition with people who have never used live guns before.
I think this just plays into the point about them just being expendable because it's like 3 months in and they're piloting these giant, huge starships and like they don't get a lot of training.
Yeah.
And same scene, that live ammunition scene. Why are they simulating against humanoids? Like the targets they're supposed to be shooting are look like humans.
That's a good point.
None of their training has arachnids. What the hell is up with
That's
that?
from their previous war.
I think at that point they weren't at war with the bugs. I think they were like, oh, the bugs are a nuisance and we're like dealing with them sort of, but it wasn't like
No.
we're full on in World War II situation. Because then the guy says when the asteroid takes out Buenos Aires, that's the first time that they have like, because previous to that they've shot down all the asteroids. But that was the first time that it was like the 9/11 happens and now they're like, all right, we're going to Afghanistan. Klendathu.
I guess maybe you're right. I didn't think of it that
This
way
was
though.
before 9/11 though, I guess, so they didn't even.
This is a prophetic movie.
Hit pick, that guy, for some reason they just like show his dog all crushed. And then he's like, kill them all.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
I just thought that was so funny.
my
What the hell is that?
Yo, nitpick. I forgot to mention this earlier. How are the bugs accelerating asteroids to faster than light speeds? To travel between solar systems?
Don't even
That's
worry about
years. That's many, many years. Maybe. I think the closest solar system to us is 8
Okay, but
years.
here's
solar
the
light years
question
away.
I had. Are the bugs actually doing it or is it all propaganda? That's like, I was wondering that. I'm like, are the bugs actually at war with us or do we just need a foe?
I mean,
Well, they
combat.
don't need to be specifically, like the bugs aren't sitting back there being like, that planet over there, we're going to take them out. Instead, their whole mechanism by which they propagated through the universe is just like putting spores on a rock and just launching the rock out there, and it just whatever it lands on, cool. More of us were born over there.
I feel like them shooting enough asteroids at Earth that it's like a theme that asteroids are keep hitting Earth, like which is moving around on a trajectory. It's not like you could just send it into space and it keeps hitting Earth. Like, actually, I kind of like this headcanon that like the United Citizens Federation is setting this up and
definitely headcanon,
throwing the asteroids themselves. That would make more sense than the bugs that don't even have space travel. They just send spores out.
If you read the novelization of Stormtroopers 17,
what? Who?
Starship Troopers 17. That's what they explain.
What is happening?
Outposts 7?
Huge hit pick. Huge hit pick. Honestly, it's such an underrated joke, even though I never like asked anybody, but I feel like it's underrated. When they're Dizzy is finally about to score with Johnny, and then Ironside comes in and interrupts them, and then he's like, "Okay, you got 20 minutes." I was like, "That's nice." I thought the scene was gonna end there, but instead they have this awesome joke where Johnny's like, "20 minutes? I can do it." And they're like, "Really? Okay." And then they start getting it on.
Yeah, he's like, "We can do it."
That was awesome.
That was really funny.
That was pretty good.
And realistic.
Nitpick. There's a character named Shujimi, who is Hispanic, but he's got an Asian name.
Well,
What's up with that?
I think they're just
And I
like
looked
fully
at it,
globalized.
And at first I was like, am I just misinterpreting this guy's ethnicity? Is he actually Japanese? No, his name's Anthony Rui Vivar or something. He's like 100% Hispanic, but his name's Shujimi.
Yeah, I think their society's just like fully globalized.
I mean, could be. The Hispanic lineage just kind of got into the Japanese one somehow.
There's probably someone listening to this podcast who's Hispanic and Japanese.
If you are
like, it's not
if you're a Hispanic
man.
person with a Japanese name, leave a comment.
Do I know anybody like that?
That would be really interesting. Well, because Japanese society historically is stereotypically kind of insular.
It's not quite
You
the
don't see
same.
a lot of white people
But
or
I had
people of
a-
other races
my sister had a friend
with Japanese names.
who was like white because he was born in Canada, but he lived from like age 2 to 17 in Japan. So he had a Japanese accent, and people always thought he was being racist.
Wow.
I remember hearing that, and I was like, "Oh, that's
so sad.
I know a girl who's her father's Finnish, her mother is like Chinese Singaporean, but is from Colombia, so like speaks Spanish and stuff like that. That's a wacky mix.
That's all. I love the stories there. Like, how did this
I don't
happen?
have a cool punchline like David.
Nope.
That sounds hilarious. For me,
I just felt bad. Yeah.
no kidding.
Nitpick for me when Ace is squad leader and they get down to the initial invasion thing and they're like, "What do we do?" And he's like, "I don't know. What do we do? I don't know." And then Rico steps in to save the day with the brilliant leadership of just saying, "Kill them all," and then they all start shooting like they weren't shooting already.
That's great. That's honestly great.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in a
that
movie.
could totally
ever.
happen where you're just like everyone's losing their nerve and quitting's contagious, and you're like, "Oh shit, that's all retreat."
There's bugs
Instead, somebody was
coming
just like,
at you.
Yeah.
Why would you not shoot?
Let's go.
Because they're sheep.
I don't know.
And all they know how to do is take orders. They can't think for
I know.
themselves.
It was a moment of like where I was like, okay, could be satire, I guess, but it's just like too dumb to be satire.
Yeah, I agree
because
with
it's
that.
like you're either saying that like is this fascism's fault that this guy sucks as a leader? No, there's no commentary. I mean, unless I'm stupid.
It's a character
Let me know.
bit, right? That's how he's on his path to going up the ranks. That's his first time he shows leadership like that.
Right. Then and the amazing leadership that he has is just
Not being afraid.
is following the Federation's orders to just turn your brain off, kill them all. I guess you could see it that way, but
That's
I
what
don't.
every
I don't see
leader
why
needs.
Ace wouldn't have that
He was in
indoctrination
shock.
too.
I think part of it's more saying that Rico has the steely nerves to fight in the face of conflict.
All right, I take it back. It wasn't the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life because you could say that it was like, oh, that the movie is saying, isn't it funny how in this world the mark of a good leader is just like repeating the talking points.
Well, I kind of on that same line. I love when Dizzy comes to join the squad, and she like the way they prove they belong is by fighting. I was like, that's such a primal, primitive way
Very
of doing
Spartan.
it. Very Spartan, but it's like it works in this movie to be like,
Well-
yeah, that's just how you prove.
Oh, like that
superiority.
sergeant just busts him, just totally destroys his arm.
I did sort of appreciate, so like we already talked about how in the beginning they give this whole lore dump, and I appreciated how they made clear in the beginning that the supreme authority, like what does he say? The supreme authority from which all other authority is derived is force. And he's like, violence has solved more conflicts than anything else throughout history. So like we know that in this society, if you can beat somebody with violence, then you are right.
Yeah. Oh, I just realized a nitpick I didn't realize.
No.
The sergeant, he taps her out. He makes her pass out, right? With a knee on the neck. And she actually has bruise on the neck in the next scene. He's only covering one carotid. She wouldn't pass out. He'd need to...
He was going so hard that
have her arm on the other one or something.
No, I hear you.
Hit pick though, that gross out in the bio class at the beginning. They're dissecting the bug.
Oh,
and they're just taking out all these guts just for no reason. And then Dizzy, I'm pretty sure it's Dizzy, pukes toward the lens. You never see that in a movie.
It's Carmen.
Is it Carmen?
And Dizzy is making fun of her in that moment.
Right. But people never puke towards the lens. It's either like a off-screen puke where you see their back, sometimes a side puke like in the Matrix.
Yeah, you see just a little bit.
This was like, toward the lens chunks are going. That is awesome.
That's a tonal promise if I've ever heard one.
I thought that was like kind of weird because you could tell that she just had like a little mouthful of puke and that was it.
I don't care. I'm here for it. It's awesome. That's Van Verhoeven
Hit
for
pick.
sure.
I like the score a lot. It sounds exactly like the Robocop score, which makes sense. It's the same composer. But nitpick is that it's not as good as the Robocop score.
Nitpick when they are after the initial invasion and like Carmen and Xander are walking through the ship, walking past all the wounded soldiers. It's strange. There's almost no wounded at all.
I know.
Why are you showing us all these wounded people then?
I said that out loud too. I'm like, as you walk by this infirmary full of suffering people.
I feel like it's stuff like that that just makes me think that he's like doesn't know what he's doing. Like, what you would use this as a way to tell people how many wounded there are, and then your character immediately contradicts it.
But I also
relatively
wonder.
Speaking,
I also wonder if it's intentional in the sense that like Rico is on the KIA list, but he's not KIA. Like he's clearly been found and he's in a Bacta tank or whatever. And so are they over-reporting these deaths to like for propaganda?
Yeah, maybe it is brainwashing. They're beside all these ailing people, and like that's like very little people.
Could be.
That's barely anyone.
That would be a charitable interpretation, but it could be.
I agree.
It is terrible.
I don't know if this is a nitpick or a hit pick. When Ironsides like opens the one crate, here's the beer, opens the next crate, and here's the entertainment. Footballs and fiddles, baby. Footballs and fiddles.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That was random.
I thought it was going to be like holographic, like strippers or something. I was like, entertainment,
or like cocaine or something.
But it's co-ed. So
it's just,
and they're all feminist. They're all fascist feminists in the future. So
and they love the fiddle. They love a good acrylic violin.
That's weird.
Hit pick,
that was weird.
yeah.
Ace is like, yes,
Yeah, he
my
picks up the
shit.
violet.
Now I'm gonna solo beside people and like just narrate their evenings.
Probably my favorite part of the movie is Watkins, who later sacrifices himself to nuke the bugs. There's a downed bug and he walks up to it and it kind of like looks in his eye for a second, and he's like, "Damn dirty, whatever," and he like just unloads in it, and it.
Or when he shoots it in the eye and it squirts all over him.
He gets covered in goo, and so now half of his face is just dripping goo. And like it's obscuring his face, and then he says something to Dizzy or whatever, and he's speaking through the goo, but they're acting as if they're not covered in goo.
Yeah, it's like totally.
But it is like obstructing his ability to talk. But they're acting as if it's not there. And then she's like, "It's dead, man, it's dead," or whatever. And then she walks away, and he shoots it again and gets covered with more goo. It's like, what did you not? So this was like,
That's what I love about this movie.
This could be an SNL moment. That was like where I was like, this is very strong as a satire because I'm laughing. It's a funny moment, but it's...
You're laughing at hyper-violence,
You can see someone who isn't aware of like the subtext, like thinking like, whoa, that's so violent. But really, it's just hilarious. It was
amounts of gore is
literally like a
hilarious.
Nickelodeon show. Like someone got gooed. Slimed. That was my favorite part of the movie.
Nitpick, why is this crack flight team piloting this dropship suddenly?
Yeah, that was weird.
They went from like commanding this fleet of starships to like, we just happen to be the dropship pilots to pick you guys
Also,
up.
that sequence was really weird and slow. Like they get the dropship in there and they kind of still just chill for
they
5
take forever
minutes.
to
They
get
gotta
on the
load
ship.
all those people. Also strategic error. They're on the what do you call those? Like the ramparts, shooting down as the bugs are trying to climb up.
Yeah, they're
and
making a
like,
pile.
Everyone, like, go down a little bit into the center of this building so that all the bugs can have the high ground and surround us.
Yeah,
It's like, what?
Fall
This is
back.
so stupid.
Yeah.
I hated that whole
Well, they wanted to be
sequence.
ready for the dropship, I guess. But
Yeah, it was dumb.
the dropship also looked dumb. It's just like a box with like a thing on top.
I did like that shot outside of the little base where it's like the piles of aliens is what's allowing the aliens to get over
Yeah.
the wall. I thought that was kind of cool.
There's no Helm's Deep, but it's aight.
World War Z.
Such a nitpick here. Or no, hit pick. Total hit pick. Love this. Big hit. I love the lacerations will often cut the soldier's clothes like right open, exposing skin.
Man, some of those looked really good. Like somebody's like running away down the ramp from the bugs and like you see a claw coming, it just like
Yeah.
splits open his back. And it looked like I think it was just like one shot. They must have done something, but like it was one shot. We see his intact back and then the claw comes down and then he like rolls over a bunch of times. You see the wound.
They did
Looked
a
really good.
job. They did a really good
Once
job.
again, effects hold up very well.
Something about it when the clothes are ripped right open, it's like just more realistic than, I don't know, just getting hit in the back and some blood comes out.
What did you guys think of the death of Michael Ironside and Dizzy? I thought they were kind of lame. I like the Dizzy one a bit more, I guess, but I don't know. They both just felt like, really? That's it?
He's just like in quicksand, kind of going, ah, no.
Yeah.
And then Mercy kills him with a shot in the chest. I'm like, shoot him in the head, please.
Yeah.
Please shoot me in the head.
Because Chester
Yeah,
not
that was
A
instantly
so
single
weird.
bullet in the chest.
Yeah, and
That would've been funny.
he
He's
kills
like-
the other guy with a bullet to the chest too. I'm just like, what? Go for
Yeah.
that? What?
Go for the head.
I shortened your suffering by a minute or two.
My final nitpick is just that Ironside's arm, like, special effect in the classroom scene is pretty bad. You can just tell that his real arm is in his shirt.
It's way too big and bulky.
His one shoulder is just like 6 inches wider than this other
Yeah.
one. It's pretty
Oh my
bad.
God.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to say one last thing about Paul Verhoeven.
Before you do, let me get this one liner out of the
Go.
way, okay? There's a missing line I noticed from the screenplay,
Oh.
which is when Johnny's dad and Johnny are talking about the teacher, and he says his last name is like Rajchek or something, right? In the screenplay, Johnny's dad goes, sounds like a foreigner.
Oh,
And that's not in the movie.
oh, interesting.
And I wondered why. And is it because, again, they're trying to remove another like dimension of prejudice? They didn't want there to be any xenophobia. They want to isolate everything from the fascism.
That's interesting.
Well, yeah, I think that the idea is that with this and with the Empire in Star Wars, the Aryans are humans. The Aryans, you don't have to like identify members of your own species that are the other because they have a different other. The bugs are the other, so they don't need other people within humanity. Yeah.
Now go ahead.
Uh,
Verhoeven.
I see his heart. You know, I see what he's trying to do. And I think that I admire what he was trying to do with these movies. I know that he made a bunch of like dumb action movies and he made like Showgirls and stuff. And he's tried to inject a deeper level of philosophy and like thought into these projects. And so I respect that about him. I think I just on some level, I think the way that it comes out is like if it's like those douche bros that learn about feminism so that they can pull more chicks. You know what I mean? It's like you learn about feminism so that you know the talking points, so you know the things to bring up, and maybe you even like internalize some of the lessons. But the reason you're doing it is so that you can make these dumb action movies, aka get laid more by impressing people with your knowledge. You know what I mean? Maybe that was confusing because at first I said I liked his heart, but I think that like it could be either way for I don't know what he's trying to do, because if he was trying to do a good thing with this, I feel like he wouldn't make this many missteps. He wouldn't make this many movies that are just the same.
I think what he was trying to do is just make a badass movie and then kind of have some intellectual component to it. And I think you don't like the way that it lands and the balance of it, but I think that like for me, I'm able to remove, like take a step back, look at the missteps, realize that there's kind of some fuzziness, but then appreciate where it does work and just like kind of laugh and enjoy it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's where I landed actually watching the movie myself. And then in the post-analysis, I'm like, damn, Verhoeven, I feel bad for you.
You're responsible.
Fuck! You screwed this up. He screwed it up. Like,
I feel like he's pretty damn good. Like, I'm never going to make a movie as good as him, but he's just not Denis Villeneuve. Like, you know, he's just not like the best of the best, but I think he does quite a lot in his movies. I think they're pretty respectable.
Are we going to do a tier list right now of all the directors?
Yeah. He makes good movies. We're still talking about these movies.
I'd say he's like one tier up from Michael Bay. There's Michael Bay, and then there's like, he's one tier up towards Denis Villeneuve.
But that's pretty high. Like in the spectrum of all directors on earth, like he's not Uwe Boll. Like he's like,
no.
He's like leagues ahead of Uwe Boll.
Oh man.
I hate that guy. He's better than Baz Luhrmann. Fuck Baz Luhrmann.
No,
Baz Luhrmann's got lots of big movies.
They're so different. They have such different strengths.
Okay, now you bring that up made me say that he's like below Michael Bay then.
No.
If that's like the base, like dumb action movie people, like Michael Bay makes dumb action movies, but at least sometimes there's like coherent character arcs.
I think
Verhoeven doesn't even have that.
I put Verhoeven above Michael Bay. I think they're similar and they're doing different things. They're capable of different things, but anyways.
Well, it's hard. Are you judging them on their best movie, on their worst movie, or on the whole body of work averaged out? Like it's. We have to make the rules, guys.
This is supposed to be the end of an episode, not the beginning of one.
I've only seen Robocop and this one of his. I'm pretty sure.
There's not that many movies of his that I particularly
He
love.
had like a 10-year career in
Total
Netherlands.
Recall. Yeah.
Oh, he did Basic Instinct?
Yeah.
I gotta watch that.
Did he direct Total Recall?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. These guys have some iconic films.
I mean, that's the same situation, though. I haven't watched that in a long time, but I remember thinking that had more poignant social commentary.
There is a little bit more. I do think Robocop is the best package. And I am going to officially lower my score from an 8 to a 7.4.
6.9. Oh, come on.
7.69.
420? 420.
420. 7.420.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
I still really enjoy it, but I hear what you guys are saying.
Basic Instinct.
People cite that movie all the time. Sharon Stone.
It's because she's so hot that she brings it up by like 2 whole points.
Excuse to have some sexy times in a movie.
Michael Douglas.
He's a horny feminist.
Bro.
Horny feminist bro.
Brohoven.
All right.
You guys got shit you're watching?
Do you want to talk about other stuff?
Spoiler alert for Rings of Power up to season 4, episode 4.
Yeah.
The show's getting better.
I'm getting more invested.
4 was great. I thought 4 was the best episode yet. I liked it.
What did I tell you?
You said there was too modern of a conflict.
Yeah, they made the Numenor.
Don't put politics in my show, is what you said.
No, I think that I want politics, but it feels weird when you like take a modern political problem and inject it into fucking
the elves took our jobs.
The elves are gonna take our jobs.
I think it was a little too one-to-one. Yeah.
Okay.
They don't need to sleep. Those elves.
Yeah.
They live forever, hammering stuff.
They're gonna use elves instead of robots at the factory.
But I was glad to get back to Elrond. I like that stuff. Finding the Mithril was cool.
Yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah,
I was very into it.
That was a cool scene.
Oh, I really liked it. So I think I'm on Team Riley here with the Adar being Sauron.
Oh, that wasn't Sauron.
No?
No way.
Ah.
I will say this episode was the episode I started to gain room in my heart for Galadriel. I was like, okay, I'm feeling her a little bit, and the princess as well. Kind of, I think they do a good job exploring that dynamic, and like, I cared a little bit about Galadriel.
Oh, and they had the Palantirs. I love when they use all the things I know already. I'm like, yeah, I like that. I like that's familiar.
Do you guys like those visions of Numenor falling or whatever? Like dying?
It was aight. It
was pretty cool. And I think
then the symbol that's on everyone's tattoo and everything is just Mordor's mountain range.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was dope.
I will say this show is ruining my appetite for other big budget shows that just don't have quite as big of a budget. I look at like trailers, like an auto played a trailer after or something, and I was like, this looks like shit. And it was like, oh no, it didn't play autoplay after. It was like a Disney fantasy. Oh, the Willow trailer, and it's like it's a big budget show, and it's like it's probably gonna be pretty good. But I was like, wow, they're just shooting in a forest.
Disney is like they're gonna keep doing what they've been doing, which is like putting as little budget into these things as they can, where they think that they can make a good enough show that people will watch.
It might be the bit better business model. I can't imagine that Rings of Power is worth it for them. $1 billion
It's
show.
a different calculus. It doesn't have to.
That's fair.
It has to get people to subscribe to Prime. And then when they subscribe to Prime, you're like 50% more likely to spend. You spend way more. No, you spend 50% more money or something like that.
Do you
on
think,
Amazon just buying shit?
Do you think that people are getting subscriptions for Rings of Power? Because to me, I'm like, people already have it or they're going to pirate it. Like, we're already at the saturation point of streaming.
It's hard to say because we're not in that. None of us here are in that boat.
That's
right?
fair.
So
It's possible
That's
that
fair.
people subscribe for Rings of Power.
$1 billion.
you might have been on the edge already, right? You're like,
That's
I love
fair.
Amazon. I hate paying for shipping.
Yeah.
I want to see Rings of Power. Why not? Comes with music.
I wanted to say about the Numenor thing. I wrote this in the teams. I'm just going to say what I wrote because
You tell me.
the tension should not be based on like xenophobia from the elves. It should be based on like Numenor thinking they're hot shit and thinking they're better than the Valar, better than whatever, because they were gifted this isle, and then they kind of get a big head and they're like, "Psh, we're so badass because we're badass, not because we were gifted anything, not because of virtue of anything else.
Sure.
We can maybe we could invade Valinor, maybe we could take over the world, blah blah." And then for their pride, they are punished. That's what happens to them.
So you're not into you don't want Adar to end up being Sauron.
No, I hoped that would be Sauron, but I think that given what we saw of him, I doubt that is Sauron.
Why?
Because he said, oh, only Arondir was like, only gods can do that, and he's like, well, I'm not a god, not yet. So I'm like,
To me, I'm like, oh, that's Sauron.
Sauron is essentially what a god would be.
He's not cool looking enough to be
angel.
Sauron.
They talk about the Valar.
Cooler looking.
They talk about the Valar like they're gods, and the Maiar are basically like lesser gods. So it's like,
I don't know. All those things that you guys are saying made you think it wasn't him. Made me think it was.
Oh, I
like
didn't
his look.
think
I was like,
otherwise.
ooh, he's like an elf orc. Oh no, this is something different.
I think he's an elf that was like
That's falling.
that was fallen. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
damaged or something.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out. Might be a little early to reveal Sauron.
Maybe. Well, if
Or
they
not.
have 5 seasons planned, I bet they have like a big spot where they're going to focus on Sauron.
I will say that like it very well might be Sauron. I
It
guess.
very could be.
I just didn't
Okay.
think that it was Sauron based on that interaction. But again, Sauron's name is Anatar when he becomes the bearer of the giver of gifts or whatever as an elf. So Anatar, Adar, like I don't know. It could be.
Fair enough.
I also like the
But-
go.
They also seem to indicate that like when that old guy is talking to the kid in the
Yeah, I was gonna say that next.
yeah, he's like,
Have you heard of Sauron, laddie?
yeah, have you heard of Sauron? And then he's like, you
love
saw
that.
the starfall the other day. That was his sign. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Maybe,
so
maybe
now they're
original
trying
theory.
to. That would be so dumb if
At this
Gandalf-
point, it's too dumb because he's.
Sauron.
Yeah, I mean, maybe dumb. I
What a
don't
red
know.
herring.
I'm still invested in the show, and that's all I wanted.
I am.
It's my big weekly show currently that I'm like excited to watch on whatever
It's
night.
Yeah.
I think after this many episodes, it feels less like Lord of the Rings than it did initially, but it doesn't really matter anymore whether it feels like the movies.
Yeah.
Because it's an okay show, and I'm gonna keep watching it.
But I mean, like the books don't feel the same as like Marillion. Like those to me seem like totally different.
Well, yeah, I mean, the
vibes.
Silmarillion is just a textbook. It's
That's what I'm
literally
saying.
just, and then this
So,
happened, and then this happened.
Isn't that appropriate that the show feels different? You know.
Well, but one is
What?
a narrative and one is not a narrative. I feel like this, well, not a narrative. And one is a novel and one is not a novel. I feel like these are both shows.
But I think it's like I think we talked about it that it's sort of more of the era of like it's a different era, so it should feel different. Second Age.
Weird that it's called Rings of Power, not
Well, yeah,
Lord
but-
of the Rings, Rings of Power or something.
I thought it was,
doesn't
like,
say Lord of the
Amazon-
Rings anywhere.
it's
Lord of
called
the Rings.
it's called The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Still my biggest problem. Celebrimbor looks wrong. Don't like him.
He looks like an old guy.
Looks like a boring old guy.
Who's that?
The
Celebrimbor.
guy who's building the forge.
Oh, that guy. He looks like that dude from Hannibal. He looks like that the guy who works at the prison who Hannibal despises.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
All of our podcasts are just going to be like 1/4 Rings of Power at the end.
It's kind of fun.
Until the
If
show's
someone
over.
likes Rings of Power and our podcast,
Oh, I know what I
they're
watched
so happy.
the first half of X-Men 2, X-Men United. I kind
Yes.
of want to cover it on this podcast. I don't know.
Is
but-
that the one you would? I would pick that one. That's the best
It's
one.
been my favorite. I watched it a million times as a kid. I watched it this time and I was like, oh, I can see things I didn't see before, actually. It's
The Last
kind of
Stand.
cringe.
No, wait, that's not
No,
The
Last Stand sucks.
The Last Stand is
X-Men
3.
United's dope.
It's good.
It's called X-Men United.
It's called X2. But,
It was-
technically it's called X2, X-Men United, but nobody called it
I
that.
feel like it's one of the most important superhero movies, but I don't feel like it holds up as well as I wanted to. But maybe not.
There's elements of it that are quite good.
I believe.
But there's other elements that are like, this is very early 2000s and kind of cringy.
I feel like my favorite X-Men movie is still Days of Future Past. That movie's fucking
That's very
sick.
good.
It is good. That one's probably the most like great and bad, and it meets somewhere in the middle because there's like really stupid shit that happens in that one, but like the good core of it, buddy. Well, and Logan, if that counts.
Logan's a good movie.
That's a good movie.
We do some
happy with
X-Men
Logan.
shit.
Are we down? Let's do X-Men week next week, all of them.
Before they're added back into the MCU.
Yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
great. Anyways, let's go home.
We'll
What's next week?
Primer.
Primer.
The movie was like $7,000 to make or something stupid.
That's awesome.
I am so stoked.
Guys,
Got to
go
look
watch.
up the timeline graph.
You've seen it? And
Yeah.
you haven't seen it.
I have not seen it.
It doesn't make any sense unless you look up the PNG.
You gotta watch a YouTube video to explain it to you.
Is it the time travel one with good time travel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sick.
It's like actually like being consistent with time travel.
Like Star Trek.
They were like, let's make a time travel movie and actually make it sort of make
That's
sense.
cool. That's
But by making it make sense, it's super confusing.
cool. So,
See you later.
okay.
Love you.
Tweet at us at TJM Pod. Email us hello@they'rejustmovies.com.